It'll just go till midnight?
Yeah. All right. Oops. Okay.
It's that time, Central Coast. Time for the Slow Late Show. Now, your hosts, Alex Clupper and Bobby Goodsby.
Okay, welcome in to maybe not the Slow Late Show, but Clupp and the Goods. Didn't have time to switch that out, but it's all right. Bobby Goodsby, Alex Clupper here for you on this Monday night. A big weekend and a big night of sports so far. The Golden State Warriors stave off elimination, beat the Toronto Raptors in Game 5 in Toronto, 106-105. We'll talk about that in depth. Kevin Durant looks like, well, he's got a bad injury. We'll see how bad it is, but according to Bob Myers, it is an Achilles injury, which is never good. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about UFC 238 that happened on Saturday and some goings on in the NFL, some good, some bad, some really bad, and maybe preview a little bit of Bellator because they got a big event coming on this Friday. Bobby Goodsby, how you doing?
Well, other than the fact that I just almost blew my eardrums out because I didn't realize the speaker was on full blast when I put my Beats on. And then that intro music just went boom. I was just like, okay, I need to pull this away from my head for a second.
We know you needed a little bit of a wake up tonight, Bobby. So,
man, did I. That woke me up.
Yeah.
That was better than any coffee or,
yes,
hardcore drugs could do. That's all I needed.
I mean, those are the two things I thought you had already done, but I think the third thing wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. One more thing.
Yeah. All right, Bob. So Game 5, the NBA Finals just finished about an hour ago, I guess maybe an hour and a half. Like I said in the intro, the Warriors beat the Raptors 106-105 in a very, very back and forth, very fascinating, very intense game. And Kevin Durant ended up playing his first game of the finals, the first game in over a month for Kevin Durant. Scored 11 points in 12 minutes before re-injuring his leg. And after the game, there was a press conference, like they always do. But the general manager, or I guess president of basketball operations, Bob Myers, for the Golden State Warriors, had this to say.
Kevin had it's an Achilles injury. I don't know the extent of it. He'll have an MRI tomorrow. Prior to coming back, he went through 4 weeks with our medical team, and it was thorough, and it was experts and multiple MRIs and multiple doctors. And we felt good about the process. He was cleared to play tonight. That was a collaborative decision.
All right, so that's obviously shaking up Bob Myers, and they will do the MRI tomorrow and figure out the extent. Obviously, whenever you say Achilles, that is never a good thing.
Wow, that was tough to listen to, and you could tell he was deeply sad for this player who really possibly, even though he was cleared, was probably rushing to get back in because they were on the brink of elimination. This is the championship. This is what you play for. And I'm sure he was in their ear saying he wanted to play. But now you see what happens. This is why you don't rush players into play.
Yeah.
This is 100% that reason. I don't care. The guy was set to get paid. I know he's rich and I know he's made millions and millions of dollars, but this was going to be the biggest contract of his life coming up in the summer. And now he's got an Achilles injury with, which no one knows what the timetable will be on that. Man, this is terrible for Kevin Durant. And you could really just feel the emotion in the general manager's, or sorry, what was his name? Yes, thank you. you could just hear his emotion in it. And honestly, I think he knows how much this is going to affect him.
Yeah, and obviously hope for the best for Kevin Durant. And it's just been a strange almost situation now, the past, I guess, month of people speculating whether, I know there's been a lot of talk on Twitter that a lot of people on Twitter thought it was originally an Achilles injury and that they were almost hiding something, but then he came back for this game and they said he had a good practice yesterday. They said that he was all cleared, as you heard from Bob Myers there. And now coming up with an injury that is related to the calf muscle and the Achilles, I believe, are attached. Or the Achilles is a tendon of the calf muscle. I'm not a doctor, but I've read some things about it.
It's bad.
Yeah. And, you know, later in that press conference, he said he hopes that there's no one to blame, but if anyone wants to put any blame on anyone, that he'll take it, because ultimately he's part of that decision to put Kevin Durant out there. But like you said, Kevin Durant, I'm sure, was in their ear saying he wanted to play. And it almost seemed like just the way, I don't know, this whole offseason or this whole postseason for the Warriors with injuries has been strange. You had the second game of the playoffs for the Warriors when Boogie Cousins got hurt. He tore his quad. They initially said he's going to be out for the rest of the playoffs, and he ended up coming back last round. You had the injury to Kevin Durant, obviously, that, you know, they said it was calf injury, and he was out for a month, which seems to be more than people expected it to be. But then you see the results of him maybe even rushing it back tonight, having now an Achilles injury. And then Kevon Looney breaking something in his rib area, originally getting ruled out for the rest of the playoffs. It ended up only missing one full game, I guess a game and a half when you count the game he got injured in. It's just been almost like a strange. Oh, and Klay Thompson. We forgot about Klay Thompson. He was out for a game. He wanted to play. They held him out in game 3, and then he came back in game 4. Now, every NBA season, every team has to deal with these injuries. And it just seems strange to me that there's just so much, I don't want to say misinformation, because I don't know if they're necessarily trying to misinform the public or misinform their opponent. But it just does seem weird that there's these differing opinions on these things. And Kevon Looney, when he got hurt, they wanted to get a second opinion. The Warriors staff originally said he was out for the entirety of the rest of the postseason, and then he came back after getting a second opinion. It almost puts into question the capability and the abilities of the Warriors training staff, that these guys are going out with injuries, and it just seems so random, their timetables to return, and things are taken, you know, one day they're fully 100% to go, and the next day they're going to be out for a month. It's a strange, I don't know if I could ever remember so many injuries that had so many differing, I guess, narratives around them in a short amount of time for one team.
And I will say this, I don't know, I don't work for the training staff, I don't work for the Warriors, I have no idea, but it feels like the Warriors are letting the players somewhat determine the speed to which they can get back in and start playing. You look at Iguodala, that guy probably should have sat out a game, but he was right there the very next game. The only one they've really sat out and made sit out was Klay Thompson. Boogie Cousins probably was rushed back in. Kevin Durant was probably rushed back in. And I don't think it's a management doing their jobs enough to be like, no, listen, we know it's a championship. We know this is what we play for, but your career means more. Your, spot on this team means more future-wise than it does right now. I think they're just looking at it right now because a couple things. I think they don't know for sure if Kevin Durant's coming back, and seeing how close other teams were to the Warriors this year, they haven't been as dominant as they've been in years past, that I feel like they feel like the timetable is kind of closing on them, and their time to win now is now. So I think that if the player says, yeah, I'm good to go, I want to play, they're going to let them play, and they're rushing them back in. I don't think that they're really doing their due diligence to see, is this a smart move for this player career-wise? Is this a smart move for the player in general? I think they're looking at it as a win-now situation, and I think guys are rushing back, and I think that there's no need for them to be on the court. And you can see the injuries mounting for this team, the re-injuries mounting for this team. And this is just the icing on the cake right here with Kevin Durant. Rush back in. Everyone was like, okay, well, this is interesting. We didn't think you'd see him, but they're, up against elimination. Now he's back. Few minutes in, boom, gets hurt. So this is something that is really affecting the livelihood of those players. And I think that the team is doing a disservice to these players by not stepping in and being like, listen, we know this is for the championship, but you're hurt. We need to let you heal so that in the future we can use you going forward.
Yeah, and I wonder if any of that has to do with them wanting to cater to not just Kevin Durant, the other players right now, but say if Kevin Durant came back tonight, they won, he didn't get hurt, they ended up winning the title, and he's held out for a month, and he feels like when he was ready, they let him come back. Would that have any impact on his ability or his desire to re-sign with the Warriors, or would it make him, just be like, all right, well, we're gonna go. We won 3 titles now with the Warriors. We want to go try New York. We want to go try LA or something. You just wonder if any motivations beyond just, like you said, win now is probably the first and foremost in their mind. But you also have to wonder what they're thinking long-term wise, if it's not even just for the player's future in general, but if they're thinking about the player's future as a Warrior, what can we do to make sure that this player has the best chance of re-signing with us? Because with the way that this team has played without Kevin Durant, now they won tonight when he was out for the last 3/4 of the game, but they didn't look good in the previous 3 games and they lost all those. So it is kind of a strange situation now that they're in, and obviously the main thing is hoping for the best for what we hear from the results of Kevin Durant's prognosis tomorrow.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But it is just kind of strange how this off-season or this postseason has gone for the Warriors, and their different almost just varying degrees of certainty or uncertainty with different injuries. And like you said, letting Andre Iguodala play, keeping Klay Thompson out, keeping Kevin Durant out, maybe not long enough. It just, no one knows for sure. Obviously, medicine is not a 100% field. If you get it right 80% of the time, I think you're doing pretty well.
Yes.
And
I will say this, like, to piggyback off what you said, they know that Boogie's on a 1-year deal. They know that Kevin Durant's probably, there's a chance he'll stay, but there's also a chance he could go to DC or the Knicks. We don't know. So like I said, their timetable's closing. They want to win. And I get the pressure to play a guy. If he says he's healthy and the doctors are giving the clearance, I get it. I'm not blaming them at all for doing what they're doing. But it's also a detriment to not get a second opinion or to really make sure that these guys are healthy. Like, I thought, okay, wow. When I heard the news that he was playing, I was like, wow, okay, cool. He's healthy. Obviously, they wouldn't be rushing him back if he wasn't. So he's going to go in there, and I think that they'll be the second team ever to, be down 3-1 in the finals and come back and win this thing. Because with Kevin Durant, he's the difference maker. He's, the person that's really going to set this team off. I love Klay and I love Steph and I love Iguodala and Boogie, but they're not playing cohesively right now, and they're banged up. But with the Kevin Durant back, oh, it's game over. I don't care how great Kawhi Leonard's playing right now. He's not going to be able to stop Kevin Durant on this team with the pieces that he has in place. And then we see what happens with Kevin Durant, and the injury happens. And it really made my stomach hurt watching that game and seeing him go down, because I just know how much money that cost him. And honestly, it could really affect his career going forward.
Yeah, and speaking of being painful to watch and painful to hear, this is the sound from the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto when Kevin Durant went down.
It's the right calf that put him out. His teammates going over to check on him.
They don't like to hear the fans cheering. I'm surprised by that, and the players are telling him not to be doing that.
Yeah, that was not a good look for Toronto. Canada, known for being, the most
nice people.
Yeah, exactly. And there was, some people saying Zach Lowe of ESPN, who was at the arena, was saying that the crowd was chanting KD, and I'm sure some of them were. But just from both the visual and the audio of what you if you were able to see it as well as hear it, they were cheering out of happiness that he went down. There was particularly one guy who was kind of just behind Kevin Durant, not directly behind him, but in the frame, who was waving goodbye to him with a big smile on his face. Not the best moment for the city of Toronto, because no matter how much you want your team to win, you don't want it to be at the expense of the other team's best or second best player going down with an injury, potentially an injury that could put him down for a year. That was just on the broadcast. Mike Breen, the play-by-play guy, brought up how, maybe that inspired the Warriors, having them, their guy go down, and seeing the happiness that it brought about with the Toronto crowd. And now the Toronto players, they were telling their crowd to shut up pretty much and to stop doing that. And eventually the Raptors crowd, kind of did an applied applause when he walked off the court. But it seemed to inspire them. Mark Jackson, who's not the best color guy in the game, if you ask me, and not exactly non-biased, considering he was the coach of the Golden State Warriors before Steve Kerr came in. He said, no, that championship teams don't get inspired by that kind of stuff, which I'm not sure why Mark Jackson is an expert on championship teams. Hey-oh!
No.
It was just kind of a sour moment, and what has turned into a kind of a sour night with everything around Kevin Durant. And it just would have been nice if they would have, for once, someone's playing up to their stereotypes of being the nice Canadian people. They would have been nice if they would have stuck to that. Instead, they showed themselves as being a little more cutthroat and a little more win at all costs than maybe the rest of us anticipated.
I will give I'm a torn situation here. I will give the Raptors fans the benefit of the doubt because, one, you're in the final championship game to win it all at home. I feel like there's a lot built up. They've waited their whole lives, some of them, for this moment to win a championship at home, in front of the home crowd, and then the other team's best player goes down. Now, if they knew the extent of the injury, maybe they would not have done it. And, I get the emotion, and it's not just a normal game. If this was the sixth game of the year, not this, fifth game of the finals, I would understand it a little bit more of why you'd be angry with them cheering someone getting hurt. But there's a lot of emotion. Maybe they weren't sure what was going on. They just saw that he went down and like, okay, cool. Maybe he's, not going to be able to play for a couple minutes, or they can take him off the court and then he'll come back in, but it gives us some time. I don't know. Yeah. Honestly, I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. But yes, it was egregious. Don't ever cheer for an injured player, because that is not what this game is about. We're all human. We all could go down with an injury at any moment. And would you want someone cheering because you went down with an injury? No. I mean, it's just not the right thing to do. You should be there to, make sure the person's okay. And if anything, I think that there were probably people in the crowd that were concerned about him, but I think I pin it on the atmosphere in the moment.
Right. And like you said, maybe people in the crowd didn't know how severe it was. It's not like he had, he was not moving. It's not like he had a head injury or anything like that.
Yeah.
Would be an absolutely abhorrent situation if they were cheering for that. But at the same time, if you are a basketball fan and you're educated on these type of injuries, he's grabbing at it, his Achilles area, you got to be at least a little bit sensitive to the fact of maybe this guy just had a terrible injury. It's just the same thing as if a guy grabs his knee. Usually it seems like when a guy grabs his knee, is rolling around in pain, there's not much cheering. There's always kind of a worry, even if it is your team's chief rival and your most hated player. And like you said, maybe just the emotion of the game, first quarter, there's a lot of back and forth going on. Katie has nailed 3 straight threes, and you're worried about your team losing the game and then eventually losing the series. Grant, we're all human. It's not like they just committed murder here, but it was kind of a classless thing, and some of the Warriors had those same comments afterwards. Klay Thompson, per Ethan Sherwood Strauss on Twitter, said it was bullshit. No, we can say that because since we're not on FCC. Yeah, there we go. That was freaking ridiculous. I can't even put into words how mad I was about that. Draymond said it was classless. Boogie said it was trash, alongside some other expletives. Granted, that's what you expect him to say when a situation like that. If anyone is going to be upset about that situation, it's going to be the players. And to disagree with Mark Jackson, like I have many times in my life and will continue to, I do think that inspired the Warriors a little bit. And it's never, you're never looking for extra motivation in the final series. If you jump across sports to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, the Bruins today, a couple of players on there admitted that it fired them up extra when the St. Louis newspaper accidentally put out the ads celebrating the Blues championship before the game started. And they the Bruins ended up winning that game 5-1. They're going to the game 7 on Wednesday. And they admitted as such today that they were inspired by that. They were motivated even more to beat this team in their home building and hopefully go back to a game 7 at their own place. And that's what happened. So, I mean, you like to think that players, are going to be pumped up and 100% inspired no matter what. And I think, guys are going to be doing that regardless, but there is an extra level of motivation. There's an extra level of almost desire and, a way that players bond together and players have that just extra adrenaline spike when something that, almost odds against you thing happens, that it just gives you extra motivation and gives you extra anger. And I think that anger can sometimes translate into better, more efficient play, harder play. And I think you saw some of that from the Warriors tonight, like we saw from the Bruins. Some stats from this game: Steph Curry, 31 points, 10 of 23 shooting, 5 of 14 from deep, had 8 boards and 7 assists. Klay Thompson, 26 points, 7 of 13 from downtown. Just a terrific game from Klay. 6 boards, 4 assists. Boogie Cousins, he had 14 points in 20 minutes off the bench, 6 boards. Klay and Steph had 3 straight 3-pointers in the final 2 minutes that took the Warriors from being down 6 to up 3. Boogie Cousins had a couple of poor plays in the past couple of the last 2 minutes. A couple that were very close. He had an offensive basket interference that was really, it was 50-50. And the fact that they called it a offensive basket interference was from the start was pretty much the reason why they kept it there. And then the next time down the court, he was called for a goaltend and then a moving screen that allowed the Raptors to get the last possession, in which Kyle Lowry, it looked like when Kyle Lowry shot the corner 3 to potentially win the game, the series, and the title for the Raptors, just bricked it off the side of the backboard. If you take a look at the pictures and a slow-mo of the video, you actually see that Draymond Green got a couple of fingers on the ball, so he was able to block it.
Oh, did he? Okay, I missed that. And I was just like, how do you make such a terrible shot with so much, open court like that? I honestly, I was like, well, don't ever give him a clutch shot again. That was just garbage. I was just like, there's no way he missed it that bad. But that makes sense now.
Yeah, that's what I thought at first as well, and I was thinking that way for a few minutes until I went on Twitter and someone posted a picture. You can clearly see one of Draymond's fingers on the ball as it's being released from Kyle Lowry's hand. So I mean, I think that partly takes away any not the good GOAT, the bad GOAT status for Kyle Lowry, because now, I mean, the Warriors have to be favored. I think they're 4-point favorites for game 6 because it's at Oracle coming up on Thursday night. And if they win that and goes to game 7, I mean, who knows what happens? Game 7s are always crazy. You still think back to, the game 7 between Kobe and the Lakers versus the Boston Celtics. Kobe Bryant shoots 6 for 24 from the field, but the Lakers end up winning. It was like 80-70 something. It was a very low scoring affair. You wouldn't think that guys have the nerves like that, but I think it's proven to be true that a game 7 NBA Finals, there's going to be a little bit of nerves. And, if the Warriors push into a game 7, who knows what happens with the experience they have and the relative inexperience that the Raptors have, even though they have guys who've won championships, and San Antonio in Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. Kawhi Leonard, 26 points, 12 boards, 6 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals. Did have 5 turnovers. 3 of those were in the first quarter. 9 for 24 from the field. He had one point in the fourth quarter with under 6 minutes to play. He scored 8 points on 3 straight shots in just about 1 minute of play. He has become the 6th player in NBA history to score 700 points or more in a single postseason. So if you need any more stats to back up just what an extraordinary postseason campaign that Kawhi Leonard has had, not only being maybe the best defensive player in all of basketball, but has now turned himself into a just all-around dynamo and maybe the best player in the entire league. I know that's been a hot talking point the last week or so. Really, if you just watch this game, a terrific back and forth affair. You saw a little bit of everything. You saw Kawhi Leonard try to take it over late. You saw Splash Brothers doing their thing. You saw Boogie Cousins have some really big impact. Kevin Durant, when he was out there, played very well. Big plays all around from Bobby's guy, Fred VanVleet, who I'm still not 100% on the bandwagon yet, but I can see where maybe I was wrong calling him, not worthy to be a starter. He could probably be a starter in the NBA, but maybe not a, all-star type player. Serge Ibaka, it was just a very well-played game for the most part. And, there was moments of great defense, moments of great offense, really had everything for a hardcore basketball fan to love.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic game. It was a very much so a back and forth battle. I caught myself at work tonight when it was busy and I'm supposed to be, in there making drinks for people. I caught myself stopping, just getting enamored by this back and forth battle. Now, I will say this. I feel like the calls that were getting called were a little one-sided tonight. I felt like the Warriors got some bad breaks. I also think they complained way too much about it. Yep. It's part of the game. It's going to happen. But I did agree with them. I thought there were some calls that they weren't getting, but the other team was. So I didn't like how much the officials really made it as close as it was. I think that the Warriors should have won probably by like 6 or 7 points. But I also take nothing away from the Raptors. It was a back and forth battle, and they hung in there regardless of what they can and can't control. Big games from, players that they really needed it from. The Warriors needed that Klay Thompson 3 at the end. They needed those different plays that they brought to them coming down at the end of the wire, and they're alive. They're going to have to do it now without Kevin Durant, with a banged up basically entire team, and with Boogie and Draymond really just complaining every 5 seconds about the calls. They need to calm down, realize it's going to happen. But I was really enamored with this game, and I'm super excited to see now that it's back in Golden State on their home court. I just really want this game to go to a Game 7. I really want to see it happen.
Totally, 100%. So yeah, Game 6 would be is Thursday. Game 7 would be Sunday night at 5:00 here in the Pacific time zone in Toronto. And you said Draymond complaining. He got a technical foul tonight, his 6th of the playoffs. If he gets one more in Game 6, he would not play Game 7. So he would be suspended for that game. So he really just put tape over his mouth, Steve Kerr. Like, just do something.
Just calm down.
If there's some sort of procedure that you can take out someone's voice box and reinstall it afterwards, maybe just do that for Draymond Green for one game. Because
I feel like they need to get rid of that rule for the playoffs, because it's just too big of implications during the playoffs for them to have that kind of game-changing rule.
Yeah.
Unless it's like egregious.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the boundary for getting technical foul in the playoffs should just be higher. If you're complaining a lot, it shouldn't be getting automatic tech, because they give that 7 technical fouls for the playoffs. They give 16 in the regular season, and there's 82 games in the regular season. There can be a possible 28 games in the postseason, 4 rounds of 7 games apiece. So you're getting more leeway. You're getting almost half the amount of technicals in, a third of the amount of games or so. But I just think that, look, Draymond has to control himself, and it's hard for him to do. He's a very emotional player. He's always been like this, and that's part of what makes him such a great player, especially on defense. But at the same time, the officials have to know the situation. You can't kick a guy out of a series or a game for, complaining a lot. I think there's responsibility on both sides to realize what's going on. If he's cussing and he's, being demonstrative and, disrupting the play of the game, then sure, give him a tech. But I think tonight, the one he was complaining but he was walking away from ref. He wasn't even walking towards the ref. The one he had in game 4, he walked pretty much 6 inches away from referee's face and he's talking to him.
Yeah.
I think that one was warranted. But the one tonight, he was walking down the court and he was upset, but he wasn't showing up referee. He wasn't doing anything towards them, and he got the automatic technical, which I think stuff like that, you should just let that go. We don't want to see a game 7 potentially without Draymond Green because, they give him a ticky-tack technical foul in game number 6.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I just say, I agree with you that I think there needs to be more leeway in the playoffs because you don't want to see something decide like that. You don't want to look back in 20 years and say, well, if Draymond Green wouldn't have been suspended for game number 7, maybe the Warriors repeated. That's not the way you want a series.
And I will say this, though. Exactly to your point, it's so bad for the game of basketball that if he's not there and it does go to a game 7, that's horrible for the game of basketball because of some stupid ticky-tack, oh, he got in my face, you're out, you're done. Like, no, like, come on, guys. Like, this is the finals. It's game 7. There's a lot of emotion, it's going to be game 6, but they could go to game 7. There's a lot of emotion. Guys, really have a passion for what they're doing and they want to win. So of course they're going to get a little amped up, but if he does end up getting a technical and that gets suspended for game 7, I just think it's terrible for the game of basketball.
Yeah, and he, if you remember, he was also suspended for game 5 of the 2016 NBA Finals after his 4th flagrant foul. And that, I know for a while was a big point of contention because that's the series that the Cavaliers ended up winning. And if Draymond would have been there in game 5, maybe it wouldn't have even gone to a game 7 where LeBron took over and helped Cleveland win their first championship in a long, long time. Just a fascinating series. I'm very excited for game number 6. And like you, I'm just hoping for a game number 7. At that point, I don't know who I'm rooting for. I don't know if I'm rooting for anyone, just good basketball. Let's just keep it going. 2 more games, possibly. Let's hope for the best in that. To potential off-season news, the New Orleans Pelicans are open for business and looking to trade the Brow, Anthony Davis. After saying numerous things throughout the season, saying he would accept a trade to any of the 29 other teams, which is just the biggest slap in the face you can ever give to the city of New Orleans, saying I would go to the Knicks, I would go to the Arizona or the Phoenix Suns, I would go to, any of the worst situations in basketball you can think of. I would go anywhere except for being here. And then he expected the New Orleans fans to still appreciate him when he came back to play a little bit the last few games. Now he is saying that he, at the top of his list are the LA Lakers and the New York Knicks. He has done so much damage to his reputation in the past 9 months, 6 months, whatever it's been since he asked for that trade. I can't think of a guy that has damaged his reputation more without committing a crime or, just pretty much that. I mean, without committing a crime, how can you damage your reputation more than this in the eyes of a basketball fan than what Anthony Davis has done? It just seems like everything in his life is dictated by Rich Paul, his agent, who happens to be a good friend and agent of LeBron James. And it almost seems like he is just totally derailed what was once a good guy, great player, good guy image of Anthony Davis. Now I see him on commercials and I don't even want to watch it because I just see him as being fake and just having his career being manipulated by guys who don't have his best interest for him. They just want to put him with LeBron and win some titles. And it's so weird. It's very, very strange to me.
Tell us how you really feel, Alex.
I liked Anthony Davis. I really did like him. I liked when he and Boogie were together. It was such fun to watch them play. Yeah. Boogie gets hurt. Anthony Davis goes supernova. He goes, the forward 7 foot tall version of Russell Westbrook, where he just did everything himself. He helped sweep the Portland Trailblazers in the playoffs. And then like a month into the season, he's having an MVP caliber season and he asks for a trade and he tries to force his way. And it's so obviously dictated by Rich Paul. It's so disappointing that he wasted a year of his prime doing this crap. And who knows? I mean, he might get traded to a team he doesn't want to play for. And then what does he do then? Just not play again?
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
And the thing is, I can't blame him for trying to, put out feelers out there and trying to, show that he's not going to be pushed around. He's going to go where he wants to go. But he is going about it the wrong way. I do agree with you. It's funny to think that he's interested in going to the Knicks, and the Knicks must be hating life right now because of the fact that they're not going to get the number 1 pick, and they're essentially getting what the Pelicans could have is what they feel like they should have had, but now they're only going to get half of that. It's just a weird situation where everything's coming full circle.
And Kyrie, apparently he's wanting to go to Brooklyn because he's partying with the Brooklyn Net, and the Brooklyn Nets just did a trade where they got rid of huge cap space to be able to sign 2 max players now. I would find great joy in somehow the Knicks only getting, their draft pick, their number 3 pick, and not getting anything else. They'll probably
nothing else.
Radish or something. They'll probably pick a guy who is not going to be much. I mean, they're going to pick RJ Barrett most likely, but
yeah.
I mean, man, the whole thing is just, it's so terrible to me. Look, I understand you don't want to play there. You can request a trade, but the way he went about it saying, I will sit out the rest of the season instead of playing, that, I don't know, man.
Unless he goes to the Lakers, then all will be forgiven on my part.
Yeah, then you're gonna buy his jersey. You're gonna go to his introductory press conference.
We'll even give you Lonzo Ball. I don't even know how. You're not even supposed to get him, but we'll just give him to you.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah. Bobby, top 3 favorite Lakers on the team right now for you.
Top 3 right now. Well, LeBron.
Okay. Yeah. That was probably given.
Probably Ingram.
Okay.
And that third spot, that's really
the very prestigious spot.
I'd probably say Kuzma.
Yeah.
I also have a soft spot in my heart for Rajon Rondo, but I hated him for so many years that I don't know if I can. I don't know. Part of me loves him, but I also hate him because I hated him when he was on Boston. But yeah, I'll say LeBron, Ingram, Kuzma.
Okay.
And then way down would be Lonzo Ball.
Now, how much percent is that because of his father?
Well, honestly, what happened to that guy? We saw nothing but that guy going from all through college to the draft, and then as soon as day 1 hit with him as being a Laker, nothing.
Yeah.
Stonewalled. I feel like we haven't seen anything from that guy. Is there any news on him?
I don't know. I think he's still trying to get his other 2 sons in the NBA somehow. He wants to get them on the Lakers, which is
one still in a China prison.
Yeah, he might be. I haven't seen LiAngelo, or was it LaMelo who was in the prison? I don't know.
I don't know.
I know LaMelo, people think has an outside shot because he has some talent. I don't think LiAngelo has any shot whatsoever. And Lonzo wants them all to go to the Lakers, and he wanted them all to go. One thing I did hear from him this year, I think he wants all of his sons to now play for the Suns because they have a spot open for a point guard, and Lonzo is obviously a point guard.
Because then he could say, my sons are sons.
That's true. That would be a kind of a good shirt. Wear to the family barbecue. My sons are sons.
Yeah.
Put it on his Facebook live show or Facebook Watch or whatever it's called.
TM, because he'd trademark that right away.
For sure. He probably already has a trademark. But who knows how long it would last with the big baller brand now, I guess, bankrupt. And
oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, the agent for Lonzo, who was a longtime friend of of old Lavar, apparently stole over $1 million from Mr. Lonzo. And
really?
yeah,
I didn't hear this.
bad times in the Ball family. I think Lonzo is starting to try to distance himself from Pops, at least in the public sphere.
Oh, this is fantastic. I didn't hear any of this. You know what's the best? Didn't his shoes go for like $2,000 or something when they first came out?
They're like $600 or $700 or something crazy.
Something outrageous. I want a pair so bad now. I'll just be like, listen, Ball family, here's $20. Keep the change.
Yeah.
I want them.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, 20 years from now, those shoes are going to be worth some money.
For sure. Just
especially
I've heard that they're not exactly supportive.
What was that?
It said don't play basketball in them though, because I've heard they're not the best support.
Well, maybe that's why Lonzo's been so terrible in the Lakers. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's his dad's stupid shoe.
Yeah, he's gonna wear Nikes next year and he's gonna be able to run. He's gonna be faster than Russell Westbrook. It's gonna be great. So we'll see with Anthony Davis goes. I'm sure he'll probably be traded within the next month or so, with the draft coming up in a week and a half. So that'll be exciting. We'll probably preview that next time out. Talked about the trade between the Nets and the Hawks. The Nets pretty much just cleared up space to try to get a second max slot. And then Tony Parker, last bit of NBA news before we go to break. Tony Parker announced his retirement today. Played in the NBA for, I believe, 18 years. Won 4 NBA titles with the San Antonio Spurs. Played this last year with the Charlotte Hornets, was the backup point guard there. Played pretty well, but maybe not up to what Tony thought he could do or wanted to be able to do if he was going to still play professional basketball. So he's calling it quits. Multiple time All-Star for Tony in the later years of the Spurs dynasty, in that last championship and the run where they lost to the Heat, the Miami Heatles.
That works. Yes.
He was the best player on that team. He was fantastic for the 2011, 2014, 15 Spurs, and then injuries kind of caught up with him and in age, and he wasn't quite as quick because he was just a speeding dynamo in his first 10 seasons. So it looks like, I would guess that he's probably gonna get in the Hall of Fame just because of the success he had with the Spurs. Obviously Tim Duncan, first ballot, no matter what. Man, who's gonna get in because of all his international play and his play with the Spurs. I think Tony Parker will probably get in as well.
Yeah, I agree.
But still, the man will never be considered a very smart man in this household because he cheated on Eva Longoria. So
how dare he? Well, that's the biggest mark on his blemish on his career.
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't vote for him in the Hall of Fame just for that. My God. If there's a bigger instance of just a French person unable to be like, just not be French and just be like, I have to, be lovey-dovey with everyone, including my teammate's wife and Brent Barry's wife. He got them to break up. Tony, come on.
Come on, Tony. Control
yourself. But that's in the past. I'm sure Tony's doing well for himself on those fronts these days. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, a big weekend in the UFC. A champ. Henry Cejudo's, that's what he's calling himself now, that he's a 2-division champion in the UFC and a gold medalist. Valentina Shevchenko absolutely killed Jessica Eye, who's still maybe unconscious. And then the Cowboy Tony Ferguson fight happened. It was fun while it lasted, but didn't last maybe as long as all of us would have liked. This is Clupp in the Goods on YouTube and on Spreaker. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Slow Late Show on ESPN Radio, 1280 The Ticket.
Since we're just doing the internet, we don't have any commercials or anything. I didn't set that part up, but we're going to take a quick break and be right back.
So, how's everyone doing out there in the live country for the Clupp in the Goods podcast? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I'm also going to be starting up a DFS podcast. There's a couple different ones I'm thinking about doing. One, I have a buddy of mine who has been pretty successful on DraftKings. He won about 20 grand a couple weeks ago and won about 40 grand last year. I myself have won about 8 grand on DraftKings in the last 6 months. So I'm going to be starting up a podcast on here through Clupp and the Goods. You can find it through the Slow Late Show YouTube page. But it's going to be basically just a web series breaking down. Right now, we're going to be doing NASCAR and golf, probably starting in the next couple weeks. We're going to be jumping right into that. And then in September, August time, we'll be ramping up the fantasy football coverage. Also, as a side project to my side project, I'm also going to be doing a fantasy football draft guide, which is going to break down the perfect draft for every individual draft spot. So basically, say you have a redraft for your team. You're in a team that does a redraft. You're going to do the first overall pick, or you say you have the 10th overall pick. I'm going to do a draft with just the first overall pick and what would be the best pick per round in a 12-man league. Or say you had the 10th overall pick. I'm going to do a round by round on what is the best pick for you in a 12-man redraft standard format league for PPR and also for standard format. So that's going to be coming in the woodwork probably in the next month or so, I wouldn't say. I'm going to start posting those online. Like I said, they'll be seen on the Clupp and the Goods Facebook and YouTube page and Twitter as well. But you can also check it out on my personal handle. I'll be posting it on Twitter at Goodsby Bobby, and I'll also send the link to Alex, and he'll probably do some shows with me too. So, like I said, we got DFS podcast coming up here shortly. It'll be a web series where we'll break down DFS for football and NASCAR and golf, etc. Now that basketball is almost over, and then come in a month or two, and I will be starting up the fantasy football round by round draft seminar. So check that out. It'll be in the woodwork.
Yes, very excited for that. Like you said, I'll probably be joining you with some of those, and some of those you'll be doing solo or with whatever you want to do. But yes, Bobby the Goods. They don't call him the Goods just because it's his last name. Because he's winning the goods on DFS, and I will say we've had some heated head-to-head battles in the regular fantasy football.
Yes, we have,
yes, and we'll do so again in the PPV, the 16-man league that we're in. You're going back in that, aren't you?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out. A couple of my buddies dropped out of that one. So if not, we might start up another one, and I'll let you know.
Okay. All right. While we're talking about this kind of stuff, if you're wondering why we're not in 1280 anymore, it was kind of a co-decision by the two of us, just for different reasons. For myself, I have two big things coming up in life that require money. One, I'm getting married in 3 months and 4 days. So saving up for that a little bit. I mean, that pretty much everything's paid for. But the other thing, I'm taking the LSAT next month, and I'm going to be, hopefully going to law school in about a year and 2 months. So saving up for that. And, when we wanted to go on 1280, you have to pretty much pay for the airtime to replace the advertising they get. And I just don't have the time to get the full advertising gusto behind that. And so we wanted to keep doing the show. So we're going to do the YouTube show. And I think this will allow us to kind of put more focus on that instead of trying to do both radio and YouTube. I think we can probably put some more time into making the video experience better. And like Bobby said, do some different shows, the DFS and the fantasy football drafts that he's going to do. If I find enough time for myself, I may like to do some sort of combat sports podcast, talking about UFC and maybe even boxing, that kind of stuff. So we'll see what comes about. If you would like to help us out, we'll probably be trying to set up the website soon. We'll be trying to set up the Patreon soon. So if you would like to, help us out, $1, $2, whatever, we'll be able to do that. And pretty much once I take the LSAT, we have about a year to make this thing big until I go off and do my thing there. So now that's on you guys too.
Yeah, well, and also like Alex was saying, we have this passion to do this, and we've worked for ESPN for many years. There's just a different crowd and audience, and basically a different day and age of the audience we're trying to attract, that we feel like is the better followers and listeners for what we're trying to do and the content we're trying to put out there. And we found that radio, as much as we love it and as much as we would love to continue to do it, it's not going to streamline basically the audience we're trying to find.
Right.
And so doing it through Yahoo and through Twitter and Patreon, etc., that's going to be our way of being able to pick up followers. And as Alex was saying, we've got a lot going on in our lives, but we're wanting to do this. We're trying our best to really make this a future for ourselves. But if you would like to also be a part of the team, like you said, we are going to be, setting up the website and everything. And we'd love more content, more videos to be able to put on our channel or put on our website. So if anyone out there, say you have a basketball podcast that you'd like to do, or a golf podcast or something you'd like to do. If there's something that really you're drawn to and want to get out there and podcast about, we'd love to put your content up on the website. And it's basically just a small thing we're trying to do right now, but if it helps you get some followers or you bring in some followers to us, we'd love the content. And we're always here to hear you out. So if you have any questions or would like to talk to us more about that, please just hit us up on Twitter. Like I said, I'm at GoodspeedBobby, or Alex is at, what is it, Alex Clupper?
Yep, simple.
So, yeah, we'd love to help out in any way we can.
Yes, for sure. So, now that we have the kind of some housekeeping, if you will, to have gone through, let's finish off the show. I guess we got 15 minutes left before we both got to go our different ways for different things tonight. UFC 238, a very entertaining show.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the pay-per-view. I watched it at home, and definitely got my money's worth. It was a very, very exciting show, headlined by the vacant bantamweight title being fought for between Henry Cejudo, who is the UFC flyweight champion after he upset Demetrius Johnson last year, and then defeated TJ Dillashaw, knocked him out in about 30 seconds, going up in weight to take on Marlon Moraes, who is the former World Series of Fighting bantamweight champion, and he has plowed his way through the bantamweight rankings in the UFC for the last couple of years. That was a great fight, really a back and forth affair. After the first round, it looked like Marlon Moraes had Henry Cejudo absolutely flustered. He didn't know what to do. He was destroying his legs with just scorching leg kicks, and it seemed like it was only a matter of time before Marlon Moraes pulled away and either knocked him out, or Henry Cejudo wouldn't be able to continue because of his leg injuries, or he just picked him apart and won a decision. But Henry Cejudo rebounded in the second round, started hitting Moraes with some clinch work and some knees and better boxing, got kind of inside the kicking range of Moraes, and started beating him up that way. And after the second round, Moraes just seemed totally dead in the water. And Henry Cejudo becomes not only the UFC flyweight champion, but now the UFC bantamweight champion. A result that wasn't shocking to me. I mean, I wouldn't have been shocked either way. I had Moraes winning going into it. I just thought that he was the more accurate striker. He's probably better on the ground. And I know Cejudo is an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, so he had an advantage in that spot. But I thought he was going to have trouble getting inside the range of Marlon Moraes, with just the way that Moraes has been able to pick guys apart with his feet, especially in the last few fights. He knocked out he knocked out Jimmy Rivera with a head kick in 33 seconds. He knocked out Aljamain Sterling with a knee that was coming off of a head kick in 1 minute and 7 seconds in two of his previous fights. And I thought that was going to be the same thing happened to Henry Cejudo, but Henry Cejudo Heart of a Champion, comes back and wins that one. Very, very impressive performance, and really maybe a star-making performance for Henry the Messenger Cejudo.
Yeah, watching the highlights, I was very impressed with Cejudo, how he was able to come back in that fight and really, take control of what he needed to do with the knockout in the end of the third round. I thought it was a great battle, and I got to watch Henry Cejudo when he was on Tough and as a coach, and I wasn't that enthusiastic about him. I found him to be kind of boring in a way, but watching his last couple of fights, I'm super impressed with this guy, and I think that he could be a good to great champion going forward, as long as he can really continue doing what he's doing. So I'm going to say hats off to him. It was a very impressive fight to watch.
Yeah, and he had lost a couple of fights in a row in a couple years ago in his UFC career. He lost to Demetrius Johnson in his first title shot, then lost a split decision to Joseph Benavidez, and has now won 5 in a row since then, beating Wilson Hayes, Sergio Pettis, Demetrius Johnson by split decision to win that title. And then, like I said, TJ Dillashaw in 32 seconds, and then Marlon Moraes with 9 seconds left in the third round. In the co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko absolutely dominated and destroyed Jessica Ai for the women's flyweight championship. And that was pretty much to be expected. Valentina Shevchenko, one of the biggest favorites in UFC championship history. I believe she was minus 1,200 in most places. So that means you would have to put in $12 to win $1 coming back, or any denomination higher than that if you would like. And there's really nothing that Jessica Ai could do. The first round, Valentina Shevchenko was picking her apart with body kicks, and then it was able to take her down and just stifled her on the mat. And then in the second round, 26 seconds in, with Shevchenko having established that deadly body kick, went for a left kick again. Jessica Ai puts her hands down, try to protect against the body, and Shevchenko hits her with a deadly left head kick that knocks Ai out cold. She was out cold for almost a minute straight. It got scary. But I think it just shows that, Jessica Ai has never been someone who's been held in super high regard. Before coming to the UFC, she was one of the top flyweights in the world, but coming to the UFC, she was a bantamweight, and then went to bantamweight because there was no flyweight division in the UFC, comes back to flyweight when they bring it back. She won 3 in a row and then had this title shot. Valentina Shevchenko, I think, is just head and shoulders above anyone at the flyweight division weight limit right now. It's just not a division that is fully fleshed out in the UFC, at least. And I think it just showed. I mean, you're going to get probably a few of these with Shevchenko until she probably faces Amanda Nunes again, and what would be their third fight. Amanda Nunes has beat her twice, but both by decision. The second one was by split decision. Shevchenko is just a phenomenal fighter. She came from a Muay Thai background, and she's obviously very skilled in that, but she's also added very good wrestling and jiu-jitsu to that. One of the best, most exciting all-around female fighters in the UFC, and probably in UFC history.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason, she reminds me of a lot of Holly Holm, and I don't.
And they fought before.
I know. I don't know why. Like, there's nothing in their fighting styles that really resemble each other too much. Mm-hmm. But I just, for some reason, every time I see her, I always think, "Oh, Holly Holm." Oh, wait, no. Okay, this is Shevchenko. Yeah. But yeah, no. Clearly, a dominant performance by her. I really had no chance coming into this fight. It really was outnumbered from the get up. And that's one of those fights that you look at it, you're like, minus 1,200. I'll throw $20 down on Jessica Ai to maybe, hit her with the knee or something and take her out.
Right.
But that was just a losing battle altogether. I haven't seen anything lopsided like that happen since Holly Holm actually beat Ronda Rousey. So that's the only time I've seen like a 1,200 to 1 thing actually hit. But yeah, no, great battle by Valentina. She looks like she's going to be a great champion, and I don't know who's going to contain her, like who's going to be up against her and with legitimate shot of beating her anytime soon. I don't see anyone.
Right. And Shevchenko has lost only 3 times in her MMA career. She's 17-3. Those two of those losses were to Amanda Nunes, who is now the UFC bantamweight and featherweight champion. The first one, which was her first loss in her career, was to Liz Carmouche back in 2010 at something called C3 Fights Red River Rivalry in Oklahoma.
5 times fast, say it.
C3 Fights Red River Rivalry. No.
Yeah, no, it's not even a chance.
But Liz Carmouche, now a flyweight herself in the UFC, one of the top ranked. I believe she is number 2 in the rankings, maybe number 3. She has a 2 or 3 fight winning streak. That might be the fight to make now because there are not many other contenders in that flyweight division. I think at this point, Carmouche, 35. She's kind of on the downslope of her career, and Shevchenko is 30. I think she is right in the middle of her prime. I think that would go the other way this time. I think Shevchenko wins, but Carmouche would definitely put up a better fight than Jessica I did. So, I just don't see what else is available there, at least if you want to stay within the flyweight division.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Maybe the most talked about fight, even though it wasn't even the main event or the co-main event coming in, was Tony El Cucuy Ferguson taking on Donald Cowboy Cerrone in what was widely called a people's main event. Tony Ferguson has had won 11 fights coming in a row. Donald Cerrone, I believe, had won 3 in a row, and all in pretty dominant fashion, looking maybe the best he had in his entire career, submitting Mike Perry, TKOing Alexander Hernandez, and then winning a brutal fight against Al Iaquinta. First round, Cowboy Cerrone probably won it. He got maybe some of the better strikes in. Tony Ferguson did his usual thing, pressuring very just pretty much 24/7, getting up in Cerrone's face, hitting with some elbows and some spinning attacks. But Cerrone got some good shots in, and by the second round, Ferguson was teeing up on Cerrone, just would not let him breathe, had that constant pressure, and Cerrone broke his nose. It looks like he maybe broke his orbital bone as well. A little bit of controversy at the end of the second round. After the bell, Tony Ferguson hit Cerrone with a punch. It was, I don't know if I would go as far as to say it was extremely blatant. I would say it was blatant. You could, watching it back, you hear the horn and then he throws it. And then after that, in the corner, Cowboy Cerrone does the one thing that most people who watch MMA or boxing or any combat sports knows: when you have a broken nose or a broken orbital, that you do not blow your nose, even though you feel, the urge to do that. He does that, and literally within 5 seconds, his entire eye blows up, swells shut. Doctor comes in, says he can't fight. He can't see out of his right eye. Tony Ferguson wins by TKO. Boos from the audience. They eventually cheered Tony Ferguson and Cowboy Cerrone, but they obviously did not like that ending that way. Both guys, Cowboy was happy. I mean, he's just like, hey, shit happens, man. Great fight. And Tony Ferguson was pretty emotional with everything he's gone through with what seemed like a mental health scare and people worried about him, and then being passed over, being the interim lightweight champion, and then getting hurt in what he was supposed to fight Khabib, getting the interim championship taken away from him. So he has to win this fight. And then it just this emotion of almost an inconclusive winner. A very good fight while it happened, but maybe a disappointing way to see it end.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. I hate for a fight to end, especially one that is hyped up so much, or one you're really looking forward to, for it to end due to a doctor's decision. I understand why they have to have that in place, but it was unfortunate. And it's not unlike Cerrone to finally get a big fight after winning a couple in a row, and then boom, something happens and he goes on a 3-fight losing streak. But this wasn't necessarily his fault or Tony Ferguson's fault either. So I did think that the punch came a little bit late and it was a little bit chancy, but that's part of it. You're so involved in the fight that sometimes hearing the bell or something as minimal as that, minuscule as that, is going to slip your judgment. And I don't even think Donald Cerrone had a problem with it per se, right. But it was unfortunate to see the aftermath of it because of, basically him blowing his nose and cost him the fight. It was unfortunate to see it in that way, but I really hope that Tony Ferguson gets the title shot he deserves. This guy has been, like you said, on a roller coaster of emotions with everything in his life. I think the UFC really needs to give him this opportunity. He's earned it.
Yeah, 100% for sure. Announced, I guess, last week, Khabib is going to be fighting Dustin Poirier, the interim lightweight champion who won that fight against Max Holloway last month or 2 months ago. They're going to fight UFC 242 in Abu Dhabi in September. And yeah, if Tony Ferguson doesn't get the winner of that, then it's just, I don't know what else you can do if you're Tony Ferguson. I mean,
there's nothing.
Yeah, he has more than earned that. He's earned it twice over, 3 times over to get that title shot. So hopefully whoever comes out of that, we will see Tony Ferguson face, by the end of the year. That would be great. I guess that's going to be it for us, Bobby. Taking off at 11:30. I guess one more big piece of news, and you might not have even seen this yet, Bobby. NFL, your Minnesota Vikings have re-signed Kyle Rudolph.
I saw that. Okay. I saw that. Very exciting. I would have been okay with us parting ways, especially since we got Irv Smith for the rookie from Alabama, the tight end. I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table, but I've always loved Kyle Rudolph. I've loved Kyle Rudolph even when he played for Notre Dame. So I love what he brings. He's a end zone threat. I just hate that they don't give him the ball enough. The guy is huge. He's a massive target. Just throw the ball up. Give him a shot. You give Adam Thielen a shot. You give Diggs a shot. Give him a shot, especially in the end zone. The guy catches everything. So I'm excited. I'm glad that we were able to re-sign him. And it was kind of a team-friendly deal. It wasn't too outrageous, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see what we do going forward. But this also scares me for a couple other guys we're trying to sign later on down the line. But for now, I'm happy.
Yeah. Short-term thinking, we're good. Long-term, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
To my team, really quick, I saw a picture of Antonio Brown wearing a Raiders jersey, and it just, for some reason, the first thought I had was like, a year from now, we're going to be looking at this and be like, how did it all go so wrong? That's what I felt.
Yep, exactly.
Not a great feeling.
And I will say this, it was just confirmed. It says breaking news on ESPN. Warriors believe Kevin Durant's MRI on Tuesday will confirm a torn right Achilles.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's horrible. That's could be honestly, that's one that could possibly be a career ender if it's really severe.
Well, and not to make light of it, but the team that's the entity that is probably feeling this worse is the New York Knicks, because if anything, maybe the Warriors do like the Boogie deal with KD, sign him to a 1-year deal, max 1-year deal. He come back at some point in the season, hopefully, and play his way, and then get a max contract the next year. So New York may have to wait. Who knows? But I guess first things first. Hopefully Kevin Durant. Hopefully that's not true, and hopefully he'll be able to play. He won't be able to play in the finals, but hopefully he'll be able to play opening night in 2019. All right, Bobby. Thank you for doing this. We'll do it again soon, and keep it tracked to our Twitter feeds at Alex Clupp or at Goodsby Bobby. We'll be announcing Bobby's DFS, Bobby's draft stuff, our shows here, updates on any and all stuff concerning the show, our website, and et cetera, et cetera. And everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and have a great night and a great week.
All right. See you soon, guys.